I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. This video is going to be relatively critical of the animation for this episode. And I don't want anyone to think that means I actively dislike it or Death Battle, as I know people will. I gotta put this out here every time there's an episode I criticize at all, because people are incompetent. I'm not looking out to nitpick anything. My problems are things that are on screen for several seconds, and if your reaction time is so slow that it takes you over a second to respond to stimulus, and I'm genuinely sorry, because that sounds like a really bad condition to live with. If I pay enough attention to point out all the nice little things, that means I'll also notice the bad things. It's you take it or leave it. It's not turn one off and go with the other, okay? I spent a whole review sucking Death Battle off for how good they did Chosen Undead vs Skyrim. I'm not nearly as positive towards this episode, but I don't think it's bad. First off though, the analysis. There's a lot of memery in this episode from the visuals, like the NL gif, the Spider-Verse gif, lightning total drama, and I'm not complaining because it's distracting enough to make me not notice how kind of honestly droll I find these analyses. Aside from Genshin Impact making me want to commit genocide, I can't say Killua's ever got me engaged. Okay, Wiz geeking out over Nen is fine. It feels a bit weird. It's not like Killua and Nen are any more complex than some other power systems we've had. So I was relying on the memes and visual gags to get me through this, because it was just kind of whatever. Like, I wasn't engaged. And I do mean visual gags, because the actual written jokes were nothing. Like, they didn't make me cringe, so that is a good thing. Except for Boomstick's repeated use of Killua in place of kill sounds in words. Especially when he says, "Oh, that's how you make a pun." When, like, Vince Ant-Man Go is still the peak of puns this season, and none of these kill ones come close. One or two would be fine, but they just keep going in, like, every part of this episode that's not the fight itself. Misaka's at least having Wiz geek out over science feels a bit more fitting. I like this enough, you know? The most positive thought I had, though, is that them having actual feats from the novels on screen and quoted, which Sauron didn't get. It was somewhat overall more interesting to me than Killua's, but neither analysis got me interested in either character. And it's not from a lack of investment, because I also had no investment in the last episode's characters or games, but I love their analyses. A great Death Battle analysis can make me care about a character I don't care about, like Dracula from Ganon vs. Dracula, which I didn't watch the Netflix series until after I watched that episode of Death Battle, and it made me like Dracula. I got invested. This one didn't really do the same for me. The analyses aren't bad. They didn't make me want to fucking die, but, you know, they were just sort of, But the fight is where I draw most of my problems. I've seen people complaining about the start, then I don't know these two well enough to know if Killua is the kind of little shit who'd pick up some trash off the ground and then taunt someone who wants it. But we immediately start with this. Now, this is one of my overarching problems with this animation. Look at how awful this posing is on Misaka. Now, these sprites are directly based off of and borderline one-to-one with the Dengeki Bunko fighting climax ones, and despite that, all 4 times Misaka uses her railgun, she has this kind of awful, boring posing to her. Where is the line of action, the character, the personality? Why is she almost completely side-on to the camera and thus entirely flat-looking? Now, I can forgive the one on the wall, because, I mean, she's backed up against it trying to stay attached, but the other 3 look so bland, and that's with this one even being on an angle. Look at the actual animation from the game. Look at this stance, the confidence, the assuredness. This posing tells me that Misaka is the kind of character who is very sure of her abilities and certain that they're enough. This gives me the impression of Misaka's headstrong, rely on my own powers, that's all I need characterization. This gives me the impression of someone barely putting in the fucking effort, and just not giving a shit. Now, it's not to say I think Misaka was barely trying in the fight. I have seen people bring up that she was dominating, or Killua was dominating, or neither were trying, but no, I don't really agree with that criticism personally. I feel like this battle was more or less relative between them in terms of back and forth. I just think Misaka's posing is bad, and it won't be the last time. Now, Killua standing completely stalwart in the face of this and catching it at the last second, completely disinterested and unaffected despite being pushed back, is really cool. It gives off the impression of Killua's personality, it makes him look fucking cool. It doesn't completely defuse the railgun as it still managed to push him back a fair bit. Camera work's good, cinematography's good, the timing's really good. This is a really cool little bit, and I want you to remember that this isn't any more small than a lot of the stuff I normally criticize. So if you don't want me to criticize those things, I probably also won't pay enough attention to compliment stuff like this. But the thing is, I have enough respect for this show to actually pay attention to what's happening, so I am going to bring up things. Also, I can ignore this gross hand because he said coins, huh? Which I choose to interpret as a Howl reference because, thanks for the tip, coin, tip, haha. Killua immediately grabs her ass, which gives me major if you were a guy I'd be really turned on energy, and zaps her. I don't know how I feel about Misaka's weird headbutt shot, but it's funny. Why is her lightning yellow in this fight though? Watching clips of her from the anime, her electricity is blue like Killua's. Why not at least make it a very bright blue that's bordering on white if you want to differentiate them? I don't know, the giant kaiju looks a bit off to me compared to what I've seen of it. Though it's also possible that the novels describe her electricity as yellow, or the manga depicts it as such whenever there's coloured scans, and the anime might have gotten it wrong. In which case, it's actually a cool touch that it's the correct colour compared to the anime. At worst, it's not really a thing that I really care about that much, but at best, it might be a cool detail, I just don't know well enough. Speaking of cool details, the most consistently good thing in this animation is Killua's expressions. This little fucker doesn't give any shits and it's great. Rhythm Echo though, looks kinda bad. Maybe it's just me being spoiled by other Versus animations or seeing the anime clips, but Rhythm Echo usually looks way more dynamic and interesting than this. Looking at Death Battle's own Akame vs Killua DBX, just so you know I'm not holding them to too high a standard like an actual proper budget anime series, you can see at minimum that the screen goes darker to highlight the unnatural nature of this technique. That and Killua doesn't look strangely quick. I don't know, I've always associated Rhythm Echo with slower, more methodical movements that contrast with the after images that are normally associated with speed. So despite looking like he's moving really slow, he still has the high speed after images, which gives it a unique and trippy look. Of course, I don't watch or read Hunter x Hunter, so do not take me as an authority on any of this, but I just think this looks bad, and I think Killua's ass slap on Misaka, the second hit on her ass mind you, also looks kinda dumb. And I don't really like Misaka's animation in this section at all, actually. Anyway, this battle does involve a lot of smarts, starting here where she uses some to throw some iron sand on the floor so the real Killua hits it. That's nice, tactics overall do play a part in this episode, and that's a good thing. Then she fucking pelts him into the goddamn stratosphere apparently and zaps him. Now that is more like it. That is some good ass dynamic posing. Then her next shot has her completely silent with the camera again. Look, it's not that the sprite looks bad, it's just I think completely horizontal sprites look flat and boring. They're not dynamic, and the actual animation of the rig here just doesn't look good anyway. Killua's though looks good, like Killua looks fine. The skateboarding opposite of Misaka riding a block of rock is cool. I actually like this a lot. I like this like whole area, like this whole part of the animation a lot. The animation is smooth, there's nothing totally stiff. I love the way Misaka's animation of the camera spinning around behind her looks. And Killua just noticing there's a gap he can't ride on, so he just lightning blasts across it when there's no more building is neat. This whole bit is really cool. All the way to Killua being hit with a fucking storm and deciding to just throw his yo-yo out of it to pull himself out from its pole. Then throws the other one from under his skateboard, I guess? That's cool. I like the way it loops around behind Misaka so she doesn't see it coming straight ahead at first. Then apparently her response is to Blanca cannonball herself into the tower, which is silly, but I like it. Then Killua ends up tangling himself, the dumb fuck. Yeah, I know it's Misaka using his own yo-yo against him, but it's funnier to imagine he did it himself. Misaka goes for another railgun, which prompts Godspeed so he doesn't fall face first into the ground. Now, it's weird to me how at the end she's taking all this time to angle her shot accurately, but here she doesn't do that. I feel like it would have made sense for her to also take some time to calculate the angle, and because she took that time, Killua had the time to go into Godspeed and avoid it. So at the end, when she decides to hit him with the decoy, the context is that she knows he can get out of something like the yo-yo, so she's doing something to make sure he can't escape while she calculates her attack. Not a big deal, not at all, but I think it would have been better that way. Speaking of things that could have been better, so Killua yonking Misaka into the air is pretty good, and the feeling of sheer speed as he runs up the side of the tower is also great. But the up-close fight looks stiff. It's bad. No, I don't like it. I know it's a result of Misaka sprites not being built for these animations, but hey, maybe instead of using time to rig animations that don't need to be rigged, more time could have been spent on the stuff that actually did need to be. Killua then apparently punches a potato into being between his fist and Misaka's face. I know it's meant to be her cheek, but it's not color matched to her skin tone, and it moves independently of her face, so it really looks like a potato. I guess this is only here to make sure you know it's a Toaru episode due to the indication of a woman getting laid the fuck out. Then there's the undeniable best part of this animation. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a kaiju. It looks awesome, it's awesome, it's awesome. Limp railgun posing. It fucking railguns the tower in half, but Killua just jumps off the projectile in a frankly breathtaking shot of him rising into the air above the thing, which this just looks awesome, right? Like, no one can deny that. You could hate Death Battle as much as you want. Are you ever gonna say that does not look fucking cool? Then he nukes the shit out of it, which then immediately follows up this amazing shot with the undeniable worst part of the animation, this falling. I know this is meant to be a decoy, but this looks fucking stupid and takes me right out of the fight. Also, how is it that Killua could disrupt this entire kaiju with iron sand but didn't disrupt this one specific Misaka-shaped chunk of it? And where is the actual Misaka? Did she see him jump off her coin and go, "Oh fuck nuggets," and jump off without him noticing? That's her voice now, that's what she sounds like. Anyway, we get what I think is a pretty weak fake out, but apparently it did get some other people. I guess we have had worse fake outs, but this one wasn't very strong to me, with the music still blasting, and the fact that without a way for him to land on something close by, it just didn't feel like the right place for the battle to end. But yeah, the heart drops dead in his hands and covers him and shit. Are these spikes growing on the outside of Killua, or are they meant to be impaling him from inside his body and out his skin? Because that doesn't really make sense to me. Did it get into his body somehow? Misaka then turns him into a coin. She calculates her shot and pops Killua apart like a goddamn Lego man, which looks incredibly silly. And the rain of blood is strange given how much blood is in Killua's body. How big was that explosion? Like Misaka says, he's 35 meters away, and that's on a diagonal, so he's even further away horizontally. How big did he explode that he ended up splattering blood straight down vertically on top of her? Like, that's weird. Oh, and of course, the blood hitting the ground ends up looking like tiny cuts, because it's always got to look like tiny cuts, you know, not like blood. So yeah, an episode with a lot of weird, stiff animations and awkward poses. A few honestly really cool segments, especially the non-tower building fight and the kaiju shit. Some not so great moments, and yeah, that's about it. I don't know, it balances out into an episode I think is overall good, but nothing is standout here. I like the usage of strategy throughout at least, which is definitely a step up from previous strategist fights like Madara Aizen and Ez Death Grey, which didn't really feel like there was a shitload of strategy going on. Killua's expressions were amazing, effects looked pretty as always, and while I don't like how Misaka's animations were done for a lot of the fight with the rigging, I really like that this is finally a sprite fight that doesn't look like something that's Marvel vs. Capcom adjacent. It has its own identity from a visual standstill. That doesn't happen a lot. And I say this as someone who does really like the MVC style. I just don't need to fucking see it all the time. Which, you know, I'm gonna have to see it next time, because we'll get into it in a moment. The conclusion is weird to me. The notion that their power systems have allowed weaker people to defeat stronger people, meaning that Misaka cannot obliterate Killua in a single attack, is odd. Like, she one-shots. There's no way around it. Obviously, if Killua can beat someone stronger than him, that person probably can't one-shot him, or is probably much slower and can't land a hit on him. Ergo, if Misaka's faster, it doesn't matter that Killua can beat people stronger than him, because she'd still just blitz and one-shot, right? It's just weird. I mean, it doesn't end up mattering, because, like, she does win, and a lot of that is because of speed. If a character fights someone and manages to beat them, you're probably going to downscale them, because they can at least probably hurt them. If Misaka scales to her own power output, then Killua can't even hurt her, so get owned. Also, Boomstick's puns suck. The change one was fine, but god, you have to keep making Killua kill puns. I hate this shit now. I hate this little shit. Fuck you and your name. Anyway, this episode is fine, but let's go, it's my boy Stitch! I don't give a shit about Rocket. I mean, I like the character in the MCU, but this is comic book Rocket, so I don't give a shit. But I love Stitch. Stitch is the GOAT. I can't wait to see him win. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Yeah, it's an okay episode. We got an okay episode. It's fairly decent, but nothing special to me. Okay, well, that was that review, I imagine. A lot of people are going to be upset that I wasn't just singing praise the whole time to it, and other people are going to be upset by the fact that I praised it at all. I can imagine minimal in between, but yeah, there's going to be like less than 20,000 people who watch this, so like, who really gives a shit about either of these two, am I right? That's a joke about how a bunch of people were saying who to these combatants, because we do indeed are in being in the community where the best-selling light novel of all time would be considered an obscure thing. That's us. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and if you didn't, that sucked. You know, shut the fuck up. Nah, of course you're allowed to dislike my review if you want. Just, you know, stop watching them if you keep disliking them. Would be my advice. Anyway, yeah, you guys tell me what you thought of the episode down below. I don't honestly give much of a shit about the research and whether it was correct or not. But I will say that I still find Scales do like the thing where it says like she's as fast as Accelerator really funny, because isn't he like fucking massively faster than light? I don't know. Anyway, you guys can go to my Patreon if you want, and thank you to the people who have. Scrolling by right now, you can access my Patreon-only Discord. And I'm gonna read stuff off that they want me to read out. Del Toro deserves the best for all the respect he's shown for animation. Honestly, Killua Goldick, I like it more than the regular Killua. Killua. Ugh. What the fuck is a Hunter x Hunter? Who is X? I don't X have X any for X funny, X ideas, X for X you, X damn X sorry. It would be wildly entertaining if you played the entire review again but sped up to fit in a 6-second time frame. There you go.
Misaka, it's Pride Month! Killua's pyrotechnic abilities are enhanced 20 times over during the 30-day period. You're totally fucked!
I'm Mrs. Bodrike, and you're watching Galaxy Grudge Match. Reality includes time. I mean, that makes sense, but why are you bringing that up right now?
Yar, I plundered ye and ye marooned me! Spider matey, why did ye maroon that lad?
Favorite line? I've not seen the movie, but this I've seen this scene. Because of course I have. You can't escape memery these days. That's all they had for me, and you know what, I'm glad. This could have been so much worse. Still, I'm going to kill David for what he made me say at the start. Anyway, guys, yeah, that's all for me today. Not the longest review, I know, but not the episode I had the most to say on. I hope you have a good one, everybody. Take care.